All right. Hello to all my free-minded friends out there. J.R. Dukes once again at your service. We are going to hit it hard today, going over this Fani Willis case. We're going to make some predictions. Obviously, we are on not so much verdict watch, but we are on decision watch. So everybody's going to start piling in. And I appreciate everybody taking time to join us. So let me go ahead and make sure everything can be heard nice and clear. If you can hear me, somebody let me know. I appreciate it. Looks good on my end. We got some folks joining us off of Twitch and, of course, all of our YouTube friends. And we should have Facebook. And where else are we broadcasting today? Of course, the X platform should come in and out. I think I have it activated. I had to deactivate it earlier because we just had so many people coming in via YouTube. Probably going to have to maximize up our software count as far as that goes. However, we are going to be talking Fani Willis tonight. We have a lineup of videos. We have one video that was actually requested by one of our viewers. I forgot. I think it was Chris. I'll look it up here in a minute. But come on in. Introduce yourself. Let us know how you're doing. Sapphire Ridge Acres from Montana in the house again. It's good to see you again, sir. Thank you for joining us tonight. I kind of like this format of 2 or 3 different live streams a day. I dropped a few videos this morning related to the Fani Willis case. I think you'll find them informative. Not anything earth-shattering necessarily, but I dropped them just the same. There has been breaking news today that we are going to review pertaining to the Fani Willis case. We're going to go over it in depth. It looks like everything is doing what it should be doing. So we're going to go ahead and get started up. Kurt, welcome to the house. Thank you for joining from San Francisco. All right, looks like we're on a roll. Thank you all again. Let's get busy. Let's start off and let's see what our favorite president, former President Donald Trump, had to say today. You know, he was stuck in court, unfortunately, today. Their strategy, as we've talked about, is to keep this man tied up in court as much as humanly possible. I think that is their strategy. They simply will not learn. They simply will not take time to figure out why does so many people like this man. You can call us deplorables. You can call us whatever you want to call the Trumpsters. It just is what it is. You're never going to understand, and you are definitely not going to understand if you do not stop talking down to Republicans or the MAGA individuals. For the most part, Republicans are MAGA, Mr. President Joe Biden. So every time a microphone is in your face, you're always talking nasty about the so-called MAGA people. Sir, we don't care. But just remember, you're the one that said you were going to unite the country. And of course, you, sir, have failed to do that miserably because of your weak and feckless leadership. The United States and the world in general is in peril. We have a world on fire. We have crises everywhere. And Mr. Joe Biden, your weak leadership that was demonstrated in Afghanistan, in Ukraine, in Israel, in Gaza is on full display for the world to see. So hopefully Donald Trump will be the next president of the United States, and maybe we can start getting things back on track. You know, there is no one man that's going to come save us all. So don't get me wrong. However, voting for Republican candidates, getting Donald Trump back into the presidency, that's a really good first start. So before we drill down heavy into the Fani Willis saga, I want to look at X and let's see this is Truth Social, because obviously Donald Trump is not on X as far as being active on there. He was in South Florida today having to deal with this bogus Jack Smith documents case. I like to remind everyone that pertaining to the so-called documents case, there's a lot of information here. There's a lot of law that has to be looked at in relation to that case. And we're not going to get into that tonight, but I did want to make one point. Do you realize Donald Trump is being persecuted / prosecuted for the exact same thing that Hillary Clinton has done, Joe Biden has done, President Obama has done, and arguably what President Joe Biden has done is far more serious than anything that Donald Trump is accused of in relation to documents. When President Joe Biden was disclosing secrets, he was doing so for a profit. He was talking to his ghostwriter, and the objective was to make money. He literally went through these classified documents and told his ghostwriter, hey, I'm going to find these documents for you, and here they are. The whole thing was to make money. So, all right, I guess everybody can hear me good. Let's go ahead and look into what former President Donald Trump had to say today. Reading right off of his platform, Truth Social, Donald Trump said, okay, and I am quoting, of course, the things that took place at the Manhattan DA's office in conjunction with people from the DOJ put in charge of getting Trump are truly a sight to behold. They illegally withheld thousands of pages of documents. Then you have the really shady Pomerantz issue. And wow, people have never seen anything like this one. This will make Fani and her lover, paramour, Nathan Wade, look like small potatoes. Thank you, Mr. President. Of course, he is referring to again, another bogus nothing case pertaining to this. This was the first indictment that dropped with this Alvin Bragg out of New York City. Donald Trump is in trouble there because allegedly he wrote a check to a porn star and he mischaracterized it. And what's really weird about this particular case, to my knowledge, and with all the research I've done, this is the first time this particular law has ever been kind of jimmied or shoehorned into what we would call a felony. Generally, if you are guilty of this serious crime, it's a misdemeanor at best. But for President Donald Trump and their desperate attempt to keep him from being the next president of the United States, they are throwing everything they possibly can at him, including but not limited to going through his business records all the way back from 2016 to see if he wrote a check to a porn star and whether or not that was legal or illegal. And you have to remember, in relation to criminal cases, unlike civil cases involving solely money, unfortunately, President Donald Trump's appearance is compulsory in the courtroom, meaning he has to be there. He simply can't go ahead and campaign like President Joe Biden can freely. He has to be stuck in court every day that there is a criminal proceeding underway. The good news out of that case today, as we just read, is apparently there's some shady stuff going on. We already knew that, but now we have more evidence of it. And apparently, like magic, there's a whole bunch of records that have been produced. My sources have said thousands of records have been produced at the last minute in this case. Is that unusual? It's very unusual. Generally, at a late stage in a trial, i.e. right before trial, you don't have the prosecution saying, oh, hold on a second, judge, we have thousands of records we forgot to turn over to the defendant. That's just kind of nutty. Unusual, but hey, what is not unusual about this case, right? Everything is per se unusual in this case. So the good news is this is another delay. Remember, we don't want an attorney at law. We want an attorney at stall. And that, of course, is boding well for former President Donald Trump, because when you delay and delay and delay, the outcome is more favorable for Donald Trump, or frankly for any defendant that finds themselves in this type of hot seat. So give me just 1 second. I don't like the cough on the microphone. I appreciate your understanding. All right, moving on. President Trump said, President Trump and his counsel have been consistent and steadfast that this case has no basis in law or fact and should be dismissed. Today, after conceding serious discovery violations by his office, the Manhattan DA, aka New York City DA Alvin Bragg, agreed to an adjournment. We will continue to fight to end this hoax and all of the other crooked Joe Biden directed witch hunts once and for all. Stephen Chung, I think that's how you say the last name, the Trump campaign communications director. So that wasn't technically directly from Donald Trump. That's his campaign manager. And I will learn how to say that last name correctly. Apologies. Okay. So I just thought it would be fun to see exactly what Donald Trump had to say today. He always has something to say. That's one thing about former President Donald Trump. He's never at a loss for words, right? That's for sure. All right. So we are going to continue moving on. Let me give you a preview of the first few things I want to knock out. We have a video that was requested by one of our loyal viewers, and I looked it up, and I agree. This is a great video. If I'm being perfectly honest, and I always try to shoot straight and be honest, I normally don't show videos pertaining to Alan Dershowitz, only because I sense, maybe incorrectly, a negative reaction from a lot of the viewers, because let's face it, Alan Dershowitz is a very devout Democrat. But what I like about him, and what you have heard me probably say repeatedly, is he's a fair Democrat. He's a normal Democrat. He's fair. It's just that simple. He will call balls and strikes as they happen, and he will basically not lie about it. Now, I may not agree with his viewpoint. You may not either. However, when he sees an injustice, he calls it an injustice. And he has been a fierce advocate for Donald Trump's right to run for president, a fierce critic of the Democrats and what they are doing by weaponizing, aka lawfare, of our criminal justice system. So in that capacity, I welcome the recommendation to watch this video, to do a check analysis, a reaction on this video with you live right now, because I do think he has, and she has, some great points. They are leaning of the particular persuasion that this ruling, this decision coming out from the judge tomorrow. Matter of fact, if y'all can, put in the comments if you think that the judge is going to remove DA Fani Willis, sweet Fani Willis is what I like to call her, or do you think that the judge is going to deny the motion for disqualification and allow things to say to say the way they are right now? I have been on record, and I'll continue to be on record, despite what you're about to hear. I disagree with what they're going to tell you. I mean, it's not like I disagree with their points. Their points are right on. I think their sources are right on. I think they're reading the tea leaves correctly, at least to an extent. But I am still on board that the judge is going to have to remove Fani Willis. I've had people say, and I believe they're going to say in this video, the fact that this judge just came out with 6 counts that he has removed off of this nutty RICO indictment, 3 of them specifically focused, specifically targeted at former President Donald Trump. It's kind of like he's doing something good for the Trump side, and then tomorrow he's going to drop the boom and say, sweet Fani can keep doing what she's doing with her paramour, Nathan Wade. I just think that that is not correct, but we're going to find out tomorrow. I may be eating humble pie all day tomorrow. Either way, we're going to find out. And if I am correct, well, you know, I guess I get bragging rights, right? So let's go ahead and let's dive in this video. I am going to I have to do something here to get it to work right with the volume, as y'all know. So let me pop out. We're going to pop back in. And let's just go ahead and kick it off and get started on this. I have a lineup of different things, a couple breaking news stories today, but I want to start with this, as I think it is where we should start. And briefly, I'm going to turn to a few of these comments as we're about to get started here. Let's make it a full screen. Okay, we're ready to go. Again, everyone, thank you for joining. If you are just now joining us, I have a link in the description where you can simply click on it. You just need to have a Chrome browser or one of the browsers in the instructions, a microphone, and a speaker. That's it. Have a mouth that likes to talk. I'll see you on my screen right here, and you're welcome to join our conversation live right now today. I want to say hello again to Mr. Sapphire Ridge Acres up in Montana. Kurt, thanks for joining again from San Francisco in the house once again. Always wanting more silver. Welcome from Pennsylvania. Good to have you. And see, Tilana, I hope I didn't butcher your name, sweetheart. Tilana, thank you for joining us today. Blessings from where you at? See, Mount Morris, New York. If Fani is not disqualified, then defendants convicted with GPS cell phone data, those convicted of perjury, should seek an overturn. You know, I totally agree with your comment there. If the judge does not remove these off the case, I really am going to be shocked and disappointed. Maybe not so much shocked, but I'm going to be seriously disappointed because so many people are in jail, in prison right now today on a whole lot less of evidence that they have put out in this Fani Willis case. And make no mistake about it, it's not, can we trust Terrence Bradley? Was he speculating, or was he, as he said in his text, absolutely, I know exactly what I'm talking about. Please recall that the first witness, the ex-best friend of sweet DA Fani Willis of Fulton County notoriety, clearly stated that she saw Nathan Wade, Fani Willis holding hands and kissing back in 2019, which would mean perjury. It would mean a fraud upon the court. It would mean all kinds of nastiness. But that's the reality. Let's see what goes on here. Speaking of that last comment too, Fani Willis telling the court that you cannot rely on these GPS readings. All it means is we were within a certain area. There's millions of people there. As you probably have heard on this program before, that is a template. That is the statement that every person arrested for drugs or for some other related type of crime should use as their defense, right from the horse's mouth. Right from the horse's mouth, Fani, you are really an idiot. And you are a disgrace to the law profession and frankly, just as an example to young boys, young girls, especially kids that are minorities and of color or whatever. Again, you know how I hate to talk about race on this program, but it is a reality. If you want to help people out in general, you need to set a good example. I don't care what your race is, and it's just the way it is. All right, Pumpkin, let's see, what is the psychotic hatred of Trump about? Trump has already proven so. I totally agree. That's kind of what I was mentioning is these libs, these crazy nuts, these woke individuals, they just will not take the time to understand what this man is all about and what his appeal is about. It's about the fact people are tired of not being heard by their government. We're tired of being taken for granted. We're tired of losing our rights. We're tired of being told how to raise our children. We're tired of being told that our kids can decide their sex. We're tired of seeing men compete with women in women's sports. It's just a whole lot of crazy, a whole lot of nonsense. We're tired of inflation, of our economy, of this direct trend and focus to socialism, which leads to communism. We do not want to be living the great European dream. That's not what we want. We're tired of weak leadership. We're tired of the wars. The world is on fire. Our borders are open. This is a complete power grab by the Biden administration. It is unbelievable what's going on, and it has to stop. But that's just my opinion. Thank you for that comment. Moving on. At no reply, he is a certified Epstein lost, but he is a certified Epstein lost and Little St. James visitor 100%. I'm guessing Alan is a diddler. Well, I guess thank you for your comment. You're entitled to your comment. But the fact is, Dershowitz was an attorney. I think he did represent Epstein at one point. These defense lawyers represent a lot of people that are criminals. I mean, they're arrested and in trouble generally for a reason. And of course, Epstein is scum. But the reality of the matter is, just because he represented him does not mean anything. The fact he visited that island does not mean anything. Dershowitz, in my opinion, from things I know about him as far as just different exposés and different videos I've seen, I think he's a good man. I think he's ethical. I think he's devoted to his wife. I don't think he has done anything that he would be embarrassed about. And I think the whole story embarrasses him, as it rightly should. But I don't think we should judge him just because he was associated with Epstein. But again, thanks for commenting. I appreciate it. Remove. All right, let's see. Let's keep going. It doesn't matter what kind of list you got. Okay, I was wanting more silver. I think Fani needs to be dropped. Yeah, I think I agree with you. Thanks for sharing it, because I want to know what's going on with I'm curious to see how this is going to happen and exactly what the judge's thinking is about it. So, and yeah, he is a former Harvard law professor. He's not real happy with Harvard. If you have heard any of his recent interviews, he's not in love with Harvard. He is tired of their wokeness. The indoctrination of these college kids is terrible. I have to tell you, folks, I had to actually have a discussion with one of my own kids. I'm a father of 7 kids that I've had naturally. Well, I didn't have them naturally, but I had, I had 4 children with my first wife and 3 with my second. And I raised all my kids myself. Well, not literally myself, but you know what I'm saying. They always have lived with me at all times. But the point I want to tell you, one of my children was becoming indoctrinated with, and of course all my kids are adults now, but they're indoctrinated with this anti-Jew stuff. It's what they are taught in college apparently. And I had to explain to her that you need to free your mind and look at the whole truth. And after I talked to her about what happened on what was that, October 7th, October 9th, excuse me for forgetting that, but it just was a terrible, terrible day. The Jewish people were attacked unprovoked. What they did to the people is unbelievable, and it is something that cannot allow to be tolerated. What happened to them was what happened to us in Pearl Harbor, what happened to us on 9/11. The Jewish nation has the right of self-defense. They have a right to respond when they are attacked, just like the United States does. And what the Biden administration is doing right now, and whatever, it's just nuts. And like I told my daughter, if you lived over in the Gaza Strip when times are just normal and you exerted yourself as a woman, you said, hey, I'm not going to wear that burqa, I'm going to have a job, I'm going to do this, they'll kill you. It's just that simple. So before you support people like that, you better think of what you're supporting, because you're supporting people that do not believe in human rights, much less rights of women or women's rights. They believe that everything should be under what is that called, Sharia law. Just check into it yourself. After I had a discussion with my daughter, I think I got through to her, and she can see through some of that indoctrination that's going on. So, at any rate, moving on here. Let's see. Sharon, thanks for joining us today. I am thinking all of this unfounded crap will be doing a great job for campaigning for. Yeah, I think so too. Well, for campaigning for Trump, if you have an IQ at all, you can see what is really going on. Yeah, I agree with you completely, Sharon. Thank you for that comment. The more they attack this man, the better off he is. I totally agree. I'm glad I'm alive too, or I'm glad I'm alive too. Yeah. Oh, okay. I read it now. I'm glad you are alive. Thank you, Pumpkin. I appreciate you being with us. And let's see, Lando. Hey, from Charlotte, North Carolina. Glad to have you in the house, Arkansas. I got family that live in Arkansas. Love the great state of Arkansas. It's a little small for my taste, but hey, I live in Zephyr Hills, Florida. There's not much of a difference on the outskirts of Tampa, but I love small towns. I don't know what part of the Arkansas you're from, but Arkansas is in the house. I gotta love it. Love your straight talk. I'm glad, Kurt. I try to talk as straight as I can. I know sometimes I may hurt feelings or step on toes, but that's part of having a conversation. Whenever I say something, I say it out of love. I try to be respectful of everybody, but there's certain things that just have to be said. You can't sugarcoat the truth. You can't sugarcoat right and wrong. It's easy. I know right, I know wrong. And I'm sure you share my sentiment there. American Nana, thank you for joining as always. West Virginia. Now, Kim, another gift. Sweetheart, you are so great. Thank you so much. I appreciate your kind gift. Your, what do they call, super chat stickers? Great work. The road will not end Friday, but the writing will be on the wall. Yeah, I totally agree. No matter what happens in this case is over with. Put a fork in it. This case cannot go on in its present form with the present people. I really don't care what the judge says tomorrow. No one's going to respect this case. This case is just a dead loser. It is obvious what this is all about. It's got fraud, witness intimidation, or I should say election interference, Joe Biden. I mean, this is clearly nothing more then part of the plan to prevent Donald Trump from being president? And if that's not the case, explain to me why they waited 3 years to bring this particular case. Explain to me why Fani Willis hired her boyfriend and they're taking trips all over the place. On one hand, it's supposed to be a case of extreme importance. It's just a dire emergency that we put a stop to this evil called Donald Trump. But by the way, we got time to take 2 or 3 cruises, take Mama to Belize, go to Napa Valley, and I don't know, visit with Nancy Pelosi. I don't know what they were doing out there. Just a bunch of nonsense, right? Thanks, Kim. I appreciate you, sweetheart. All right, always wanting more silver. It's the power the Democrats want. Yeah, it's a power grab on the border for sure. The thinking is all the folks coming over, sooner or later, they're going to have to do what Ronald Reagan did back in the 1980s. They're going to have some kind of path to citizenship. You cannot deport 40, 45 million people. That's a physical and logistical absolute impossibility. Also, the children that are born from any immigrant, illegal immigrants, the children that are born, they're automatically U.S. citizens, and that's fine by me. I get it. It's not a problem, but it's a power grab. I think where the Democrats are going wrong, they just expect that all Latinos, when they come over here and they vote or their children's votes, they figured, hey, this is a solid Democrat vote. That's what they think. I'm just telling you the way it is. You won't hear that anywhere else, but I'll tell you the way it is. It's a power grab. It's a money grab. They think they're going to be in power in perpetuity because you're going to have 50, 60% of the country is going to be Latino. If you look like me, you're going to be a minority. It's just the way it's going to be. That's just a fact. But I think they are wrong. I do not believe that many, all them people or all the people that are Latino can be counted as a solid Democratic vote. It's just like the black vote as a block. You have a lot of blacks that are for Trump. I see the signs all the time, blacks for Trump. There's a guy that's got a channel. I didn't realize there was that many people that talk on YouTube the way, similar to what I do, but I'm finding different people out. And there's a guy called Doc Rich, and this is what he talks about all the time. He's and shout out to Doc Rich over there. If you haven't seen him, y'all need to check him out. I like his videos. I think they're entertaining and it's pretty straightforward. But he's always talking about Trump, and he's always giving accolades to Trump and saying how much he loves him, and he's stating the fact there is a lot of black men specifically that are tired of the Democratic Party and the nonsense that's going on. They're tired of always being assumed as a solid vote for whatever the Democrat is. And what they have to remember is that's just not the case no more. It's just like the Latino vote. It's not a guarantee that they're going to vote Democratic. My girlfriend is Venezuelan, and they don't want nothing to do with this socialism nonsense. They've drank that Kool-Aid, and they don't want none of it. They definitely want freedom. They definitely want everybody to work and have the opportunity to pull themselves up by their bootstraps and chase their own American dream. Folks, in this life, there is nothing guaranteed. Nothing will ever be equitable. That's nonsense. Don't believe that. That's more indoctrination. There is no anything to do with equity. Here's the deal. You're born. If you grew up here in the United States, you are lucky. You won the lottery of life. And what you do with it is up to you. There is no Superman coming to rescue you. Even Donald Trump. Love the man. I think he is basically sent here by God, if you will. I firmly believe that God takes people in and out of leaderships, and I think he's the right man at the right time. We will see. But even he is not a superhero. He's not going to save us. We have to save ourselves. We have to take care of ourselves every single day. You have to be your own superhero. If you don't like the situation you're in, you have to take care of it yourself. It's just that simple. All right, enough of my soapbox. Let's move on. All right, MAGA, thank you. All right, I don't see any questions in here. Oh, we got Australia in the house. Carolyn, I think you've been here before. Thank you for joining here. Yeah, it's in the morning time there. I imagine it's pretty early in the morning there, but I'm not exactly sure. I have 1 or 2 friends that I talk to occasionally in Australia, and it's always interesting to get it to work out. And Sapphire, thank you for commenting again. Because of this Fani stuff, for the first time in 2 decades, a white Republican female is running against Fani, and she interned for the Trump. Well, yeah, there are 2 challengers, I believe, now to Judge Scott McAfee, and I believe there's 2 challengers to Fani Willis. That's going to be interesting to see how that works out. I really have my doubts that there's going to be a whole lot of change because of the county they're located in. But again, I'm telling you, you can't always, just because it's a minority county nowadays, these people are fed up with what's going on in their own party. They own their own Democratic Party. They're tired of the nonsense and being taken for granted, and they are just like everybody else. We want freedom. We don't want this woke nonsense and the government telling us how to live our lives. It's just that simple. Here we go. Black men for Trump here. Amen. Thank you for acknowledging that. I think that I think that's the way it's going. Trump is ahead right now substantially with the youth vote or younger voters. I believe he's ahead with black men specifically. I'm not going to swear to that, but that's what I heard. I'd have to check the statistics on that. And currently, Donald Trump is leading in all the polls, especially in the battleground states. Now, it may or may not be within the margin of error in certain states, but that's a good start. And let's face it, you can't always trust the polls, especially in 2016. We know how that has worked out. However, I believe they have changed some of their polling techniques and it has improved. So again, thank you, Lando. I appreciate that. You left the plantation 12 years ago. Well, thank you for telling us that. Oh, you folks are so funny today. Okay. And we have Rosemarie Fiera in the house. Rose, it's nice of you to join us as always. I joke about her all the time. This is my girlfriend right here. This is the one I keep talking about occasionally. But we do appreciate you being in the house, Rose. Thank you. All right, Kurt. Election. There we go. And finally, Christopher. Trump will win Queensland, Australia. I hope he does. Yeah, we're definitely good friends with Australia, have been, and we hopefully will always be that way. Australia and the United States, just like Britain, we have a very special relationship, and I hope that continues. So let's get into this video. There is a lot to talk about here, and I am certain you're going to find this of interest. So without further ado, here we go.
Paul Sperry, he gets a lot of scoops. We've had him on the show before. He does these deep investigations for Real Clear. And he's sent out a couple of tweets citing a source close to the judge. Now, we don't know whether this person actually is in a position to know what the judge is thinking. But the second tweet, we brought the first one to our audience last week. The second Paul Sperry tweet reads as follows. Judge McAfee views cell phone data and the Terrence Bradley texts as suggestive, but not dispositive, or as enough proof to settle the matter, according to an Atlanta attorney familiar with his thinking. Texts provide no insight into how Terrence Bradley would know, meaning that they had an affair long before 2022. Did he see them? Wade told him. Now, that is an interesting thought, that the judge is getting ready to dismiss evidence of the cell phone data, the many texts between these two long before they admit their affair took place, and the middle of the night visits, as the texts seem to suggest, and so on. And also Bradley's texts to Nathan Wade, or to Ashley Merchant, saying, you know, it began well before, because he's saying,
hold on a second, folks. I got this thing with this computer. I love this computer, but when it screws up, when I hit the button wrong, it's a pain, and I'm going to fix that. Just got to reshare my screen. Give me 1 second. You're not going to miss anything. Don't worry. And we're going right back into it. There we go.
Prison on far, far less compelling evidence of pings and tweets and self hours. She put people in prison based on that. If this judge doesn't conclude beyond any doubt that there was an improper relationship, also, is there any doubt that she never paid back the money? what lawyer who has to comply with ethics rules would ever not have a record of paying back money? You have bank deposits, withdrawals, you have a photograph of the money being paid. But for her to make up a story that she paid the money back and has one piece of evidence that once she paid for a wine tasting with cash, there are so many people in prison for long term on less evidence than that.
Yeah, imagine that. He's making a fantastic point right here. To believe this story, if the judge comes out tomorrow and says, I'm not going to remove her, you're going to have to believe, or the judge is going to have to reason in his mind that this story, that she paid back everything in cash, is reasonable and that it's proper. And then that's what she did. Even though there's no records of the money coming out of the bank by either party, there's no records of the money going back into the bank for the alleged reimbursement. I mean, you really have to stretch credulity to think that this is even remotely possible. But this is what the judge is going to have to conclude if he's not going to remove Willis off the case.
If this judge doesn't believe that or says he doesn't believe it, he wouldn't be telling the truth. I can tell you with 100% certainty that this judge sitting there knows absolutely that this affair occurred before, that the money wasn't paid back, that they committed perjury, that they conspired to commit perjury. But judges sometimes pretend that they don't believe testimony or believe testimony in order to spare themselves. He doesn't want to look the elected DA in the eye and say, you're a perjurer, you should be in prison. But there's absolutely no doubt that there's enough here to disqualify. And if he doesn't disqualify, this whole case will be subject to all kinds of criticism, not only in the court of public opinion, but in the courts of law as well. I hope the judge does the right thing, but I've said from the beginning, I don't think he will. I don't think he has the guts.
Yeah.
I don't think he has the courage to tell the truth. And I think he'll find a way to weasel out of this thing to say, oh, well, the cell tower, who are you going to believe? Me or your lying eyes? Look, she and he had an affair before they were appointed. That is absolutely clear. And her testimony under oath is perjury. The evidence is overwhelming as to that. And if the judge pretends not to believe it, there's a bridge in Brooklyn that I could sell him as well. But judges do that all the time.
Yes.
You know, cops
Yep.
Arrest people. They say the drug dealer dropped the drugs on the floor. That's lie number 7 on the list of 10 lies. Dropsy testimony. And I've looked in the eyes of judges and they say, well, we believe this testimony. And then, 2 years later, after court, you talk to the judge and they'll say, of course, I never believed it. Of course, I knew he was lying, but the person was guilty and I just didn't want the person to get off. Judges play that game all the time. And if this judge tries to play that game now, a lot of lawyers and a lot of people like you and me are going to be after him because it will be a disgrace to the judicial system if she's allowed to continue.
I think that's a fair point that has to be addressed briefly, and that is judges are people just like me and you, and they know what's going on, and they may not want to do something or let someone go because it's too painful. It's like he just said, they know someone's guilty and they just can't let that person walk. It does happen. I'm absolutely certain of it. But I would hope in this case that this judge would see the obvious writing on the wall. And here's the problem. If the judge doesn't remove Fani Willis, it just makes a joke out of our legal system. And it tells everyone that you can commit a fraud upon the court and get away with it. I hope they're just wrong.
It's a disgrace to the legal system if she's not disbarred and not put in jail. And I hope the people of Fulton County have enough sense to throw her out of office, at least when it comes to an election.
All right, a couple of questions on that. Could the judge, because I do want to talk about what import we glean from the dismissal of those 6 counts. I mean, but let me just table that for 1 second. Table it for 1 second and ask you, do you think there's a way in which this judge could say, I'm not going to kick her off this case. I'm not going to maybe even kick Nathan Wade off the case, though I think, most people agree he's probably gone. But let's say he says, I'm not going to kick them off the case. Any disciplinary matters involving their misleading of this court really are a matter for the bar. And so I don't approve of it. I don't like it, but I don't see as grounds for disqualification. This is really just an ethical matter for the bar.
He could say that. That would be a cop-out. But he could say that. And also, I think his dismissal of the 6 counts basically was a message. See, I'm fair. I don't rule in favor of her every time. I took that dismissal of the 6 counts as a signal that he was not going to disqualify the whole office.
That's one point we discussed, and that is something that I am worried about. He did what he did as far as dismissing because he's going to drop the boom tomorrow as far as not letting DA Willis off the case.
Otherwise, he would have waited to see whether the new office was going to stand by that or maybe re-indict. So I think that your source is probably correct. And, you know, I think it was Levin on Fox News who told me the Nostradamus of lawyers, because I get my predictions right all the time because I don't make predictions based on wishful thinking. So my prediction here is that he's going to figure out a way of not completely and totally disqualifying them. Maybe he'll say there's an appearance, but the appearance isn't enough under the law.
And I'm hoping that the appearance is enough. We've talked about this. The appearance of impropriety, the appearance of malfeasance, that should be absolutely sufficient. So I hope this Nostradamus of Alan Dershowitz is absolutely wrong.
But whatever he says, if he suggests that you can believe anything she said, he should not be on the bench because he would not be telling the truth. He does not believe her. I guarantee you, he's smart enough. Do you know anybody who actually, even CNN,
of course he knows the truth. I think the good professor here is not realizing what he already knows, and that is the trier of fact in this case is the judge himself, and he has seen all of the text messages and all of the communications and whatever evidence there is. He has seen it all. He just has to decide if he can count it or not count it.
Many of their legal commentators who were always wrong say they didn't believe her. They didn't believe him. It's not enough here to disqualify, but we don't believe her. If you don't believe her, she's committed perjury. And if you don't believe both of them, they've committed perjury, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy to commit perjury. Again, let me emphasize one more time. She put people in prison on less evidence than is now against her. What hypocrisy.
All right. So the judge issues this decision dismissing 6 counts of the indictment. I agree. My first instinct when I saw it was he's trying to show I did something that was good for Trump. And then maybe later this week, he's going to say, and I did something that was good for Trump's prosecutor by keeping Fani Willis on the case. I think we can probably glean he's definitely not going to grant the motion to dismiss this case entirely because of Fani's alleged conflict, because why else would he be reducing 6 counts from it? Okay. So that's not, I don't think the case is not going to go away. All right. So that's that. Here's another thing that we found this soundbite from the judge speaking with the local radio station last week. And he was being asked, Alan, about his new.
What you're about to hear is part of the conversation pertaining to the, in relation to the judge, Judge Scott McAfee, talking with a reporter on this radio program. This was real recent, just like the other day. As I said earlier, I'm very uncomfortable when a public official like DA Willis in church or the judge on a radio program. It's generally just not a good idea. But we're going to listen to this and see if we can read the tea leaves.
Left-wing challenger to his judge seat, which he's now got to run for re-election on. He was unchallenged. And then at the last minute, this guy who's from the Rainbow Push Jesse Jackson coalition throws his hat in the ring, and he's now challenging him from the left. And he was asked about that and how, if at all, it might weigh on his decision over Fani. And here's what he said.
I had a rough draft and an outline before I ever heard a rumor that someone wanted to run for this position. So the result is not going to change because of politics. I'm calling it as best I can in the law as I understand it.
Okay. Now, my very smart law school friend who listens to the show every day, she's a lawyer like you and I are, and she says she thinks from that, and I think she's got a good point, the only reason he would remind us that he had drafted a decision before he got the challenge from the left would be if he's about to rule that Fani can stay on the case, because he wouldn't need to reassure us that he had drafted anything to, deal with a competitor if it was going to be against Fani, right? Like,
that's an interesting take, but I hope again that they are wrong. But it's interesting to listen to.
He wouldn't draft an opinion getting rid of Fani in order to appease the left. So I think she might be onto something there, that that statement may have telegraphed he's about to rule in favor of Fani Willis staying on the case. What do you think?
I agree with that. I think all the signs point in that direction, and all the law and the facts point in the opposite direction. But I don't think this judge is going to do justice in this case. I think he is going to figure out a way of not having her disqualified. Look, the worst
What
thing
about
that ever
Nathan
happened
Wade,
to
though?
him-
What about Nathan? Yeah, I know you won't go as far as say
Well-
Fani in the office, but what about Nathan Wade?
That's easy. He could say, look, the appearance of justice, I recommend strongly that he be taken off the case so that the appearance of injustice disappears. That would be an easy call for him, but would have no impact on the case. Look, the worst thing that ever happened to American judicial system is election of judges, election of prosecutors. We're the only country in the world, in the Western world, that elects judges and prosecutors. And the politics obviously play a role in all of these.
Oh my goodness, how many times have we chatted about this exact topic? It is absolutely unfortunate and outrageous that so many of our judges, so many of our prosecutors and DAs like DA Fani Willis, that they're elected. I know generally we like elections, as a constitutional democracy, we like to elect the people we want in those positions. But unfortunately, when it comes to judges, this is the problem that you have with elected judges. They're going to make decisions, whether we want to believe otherwise or not, that conform with what the constituents want in their area. If the people voting them in or out of office is going to be mad because of a decision, this case could be an example of what we're talking about. Then there is that chance that you're going to have a judge make a ruling that is not consistent with the law, but is rather consistent with what the people want. And that's unfortunate. That is one of the few things that I definitely do not like about the American justice system. They should have it where a judge is appointed and the appointment is for life. Now, they can have ways that they can remove the judge or retire the judge, but a judge should be able to make a decision without fear of being removed, just like we do with the U.S. Supreme Court. Another thing I'll touch on lightly that concerns me about the court system itself is you have the judicial branch. So we're talking about the courts that are protected by the executive branch. We're talking technically the presidency. So, and what I mean by that is the police. You have the police protecting the judges. I think the judges should have their own police force taking care of their own judges, because you just have that overlap and that beholding otherwise. That's just one of the other things that always kind of concerns me when it comes to fairness in our judicial system. We'll just have to see if that ever changes. Remember, in places like Israel and other countries, they don't have that type of nonsense. As a matter of fact, what happened to President Trump could not happen in Israel or any other major industrial society, because prosecutors, DAs, solicitors, they have to go to another elected individual that will say yay or nay if someone is allowed to move forward with charges. And it's designed to prevent exactly what has happened to former President Donald Trump.
Decisions. So, but I agree with your friend. I think she's very insightful. That that statement suggests that he is not going to rule in favor of Donald Trump on the disqualification. Again, that's my judgment. I don't have enough to make a firm prediction, but I hope he rules the other way. But I often predict against my own wishes, so that's my my prediction.
All right, so let's get ahead of ourselves a bit and say he keeps her on the case, irrespective of what happens with Nathan Wade. That he keeps Fani Willis on the case. What happens as a realistic matter in now her prosecution against Donald Trump and these defendants, now that the whole nation has had quite an introduction to this woman and her ethical bar?
Well, first of all, it becomes a big appellate issue. Second of all, good trial lawyers could try to figure out a way of getting her credibility somehow in front of the jury. It's not an easy thing to do, but the American public does not believe Fani Willis. They don't believe she's a truth teller. And if I'm a defense attorney, I try to take as much advantage of that in every single context, both the trial and on appeal. So she's become a big issue now in this case. If she had been smart, she just would have recused herself, not the office, just recused herself and recused him and said, this is bigger than both of us, let's get on with this. But she has an enormous ego. The fact that she volunteered the testimony and bolted into the courtroom and began to tell what I regard as lie after lie after lie shows, I think, what kind of a person she is. And I would not be proud of that.
Financial experts.
All right. Well, there we go on this particular video. I think that they have an interesting point. I am still going to go on record that it's not going to work out like that. I am hopeful. My thinking on this is based on logic. I don't see how this judge can escape the fact that if he does not remove DA Fani Willis in light of all of this evidence against her, and it's not just one witness, it's many witnesses, specifically that first witness, Robin Yeardy. She was unequivocal that she saw in 2019 the DA and Nathan Wade together romantically kissing, holding hands. Additionally, there is a line of other people waiting to come in and testify. Basically, they're whistleblowers, want to come in and say, hey, I know information pertaining to their relationship before November 1st, 2021. And in addition to everything, remember, they have the two other witnesses that have come forward. They have offered statements of what they would testify if the judge would go ahead and reopen the case. One of the witnesses is one of the former attorneys that was representing one of the co-defendants, that Manny Aurora. And then you have the solicitor prosecutor in Cobb County, neighboring Cobb County, that's willing to say, hey, I know information and I'm willing to testify. So it's really hard to get around all of that. I mean, you just can't excuse that. I don't see how the judge is going to be able to do that. Again, I might be wrong. The professor might be wrong. We will have to stay tuned. If I forget to tell you, I want to be really clear that, Lord willing, I'm going to be around tomorrow, and I'm going to be all over this as usual. So make sure you stay tuned. If you haven't done so already, hit the thumbs up button. It helps out with the algorithm, helps out with everything. And make sure you share this video with any of your friends or kids that might be indoctrinated. If you subscribe, you will know immediately when I go live, and I will cover the decision. It's not really a verdict, but I'll cover this decision no matter what it is, and we will do a deep dive on the relating thinking that the judge releases, because he will release a very complete and detailed decision. So let's go ahead and let's dive into this breaking story today, and that has to do with sweet Fani getting a letter from the the House of Representatives, Jim Jordan, and particularly threatening her with contempt of Congress. Apparently, she refuses to turn over records that she should turn over. It's really just that simple. Let's just take a quick, brief look at this. This is reported by ANF, Atlanta News First. Fulton County DA Fani Willis may be charged with contempt of Congress. House Judiciary Chair Jim Jordan demands more details in Willis's Trump indictment by high noon, March 28th. It's getting set up, folks, like a shootout, I guess. I don't know. As the nation awaits a Fulton County Superior Court ruling on whether she'll be disqualified from her prosecution of former President Donald Trump, the U.S. House Judiciary Committee is threatening to hold DA Fani Willis in contempt if she does not comply with this subpoena. So let's take a quick peek. I'm going to go ahead and share this document with. Let's just share the whole screen so I don't have to keep popping back and forth here. Sometimes it's just easier to do that versus one tab at a time. So let's go ahead and do this, and we can take a peek at it together. Okay, here we go. I went ahead and just got it off my Scribe account, whatever the name is for this place. Here we go. And again, this is brand new. This is issued today, sent to DA Fani Willis from the Congress of the United States, 118th Congress of the United States House of Representatives Committee of the Judiciary, blah, blah, blah. March 14th, 2024, to Honorable Big Sweet Fani. I like to call her Sweet Fani T. Willis, District Attorney, Fulton County. And here we go. Dear Miss Willis. Now, this is Jim Jordan. I'm pretty certain of that. writing a letter directly to Fani Willis, and here we go. The Committee on the Judiciary is continuing its oversight of the Fulton County District Attorney's Office, herein called FCDOA, receipt and use of federal grant funds issued by the U.S. Department of Justice, the DOJ, on February 2nd, 2024, and after several attempts to obtain your voluntary compliance with our oversight, the committee issued a subpoena for you. The subpoena compelled the production of two specific categories of documents. Number one, documents and communications referring or related to the Fulton County's office receipts and use of federal funds, and two, documents and communications referring or relating to any allegation of the misuse of federal funds by Fulton County. Now, what does this mean? You remember the taxpayers are footing the bill for this bogus, outrageous, so-called RICO case. So what's going on here is they are investigating what she's doing with this money, why she's doing what she's doing, who she's been in contact with, because they know that this is all being orchestrated at the behest of the White House, or at least individuals working / controlling the White House. So one other point on that federal money there, I'm not exactly sure they can prove this yet, but my understanding is part of the money paid to Wade was from unused COVID money, which would make this a federal concern. And boom, here you have it as a result of this. So on February 23rd, 2024, you responded to the committee's subpoena with a letter in which you smeared a former employee. Let me highlight it so you can follow. A former employee of yours who spoke out about your misuse of federal grant funds. We will not dignify your attacks on this brave whistleblower or your continued attempts to distract from your conduct through misdirection and personal insults. The allegations in the public realm about your misuse of federal grant funding are concerning, and the committee has an obligation to examine them. We appreciate that you have produced a narrow set of documents in response to the subpoena, but your compliance with the subpoena to date is deficient. Attached to your letter were various documents, a number of which were previously produced to the committee. That's an old trick, by the way, folks. You basically send the same documents in a different order or mixed up. You really have no obligation per se to carefully file them properly and make it easy for the other side. That's an old trick. You put all these documents together, shuffle it up like a deck of cards, and send it in. That's just part of the game. You're not supposed to do that, but that's routinely done. So anyway, a number of which were previously produced to the committee that contain, among other things, 15 award letters from the Department of Justice's Office of Justice Programs, OJP, and Office of Violence Against, and approximately 27 screenshots of expense budget summaries available to Fulton County. However, you failed to produce any of the following documents. So here's what they're looking for. This will clearly tell you where they're trying to drill down on this particular investigation. When they're asking certain questions, common sense tells you where they're going, what they're looking for. So briefly, all documents and communications referring or relating to any allegations of the misuse of federal funds, all documents, communications between or among your office and the Justice Department. See, they're looking for any type of orchestrated effort between them and the Department of Justice, the Biden White House, whatever. All communications between Fulton County employees about the receipt or use of federal grants, all documents that fall within the scope of the subpoena, such as Fulton County's applications, proposal abstracts, grant agreements, financial management, and system of internal controls questionnaire, and consolidated budget summary documents. They are tearing it up, folks. All documents and communication relating to Fulton County's grant performance measurement and progress reporting information. When you misappropriate taxpayers' money, when you misappropriate federal money, you have a problem. Make no mistake about it. Although additional materials are likely also responsive to the committee's subpoena. As an accommodation, we will prioritize the production of these documents and communications identified above. Your letter also represents that the committee engaged with the Justice Department to obtain responsive documents. So she basically said, hey, if you want these documents, go to the Department of Justice. They're not going to tolerate that, guarantee you. It says with the Justice Department to obtain responsive documents that Fulton County should have in its possession. As a part of our oversight, the committee has engaged with the Justice Department about its administration of federal grant programs. The committee's separate requests to the Justice Department do not alleviate you of your legal obligations to comply with the subpoena. In addition, in your letter, you were noted a preliminary objection to the committee subpoena on the grounds that the subpoena, this is what they always say about subpoenas, it's overboard and unduly burdensome under any ordinary meaning of those terms. They'll say it's too broad, it's too burdensome, it's too much, it's too expensive. Well, that's just too bad. To the contrary, the committee has exercised its authority with restraint. The subpoena seeks only 2 categories of documents, and the scope of its request covers only a limited time period, namely January 1st, 2020 to the present. When you go to court and you ask a judge for a motion for protection pertaining to a subpoena or whatever type of discovery, the judge is going to want to know what measures have you taken to narrow the scope? Why do you need this information? Are you being unreasonable? If you simply ask for a limited time period and you are very specific with what you're looking for, and it's not just a burdensome, what they call fishing expedition, you're on solid legal ground. And plus, the Congress has a duty of oversight. This is one of their most important functions. In addition, as discussed above, the committee is prioritizing certain categories of documents as an accommodation. While you have initiated the additional documents, while you have indicated that additional documents may be forthcoming in response to the committee's subpoena, the committee has yet to receive any additional responsive materials in the 3 weeks since your last initial response. Accordingly, the committee expects that you will produce all responsive documents to the subpoena in the categories prioritized by the committee no later than, and right here it is, folks, they're not going to play around, 12 o'clock on March 28th, 2024. If you fail to do so, the committee will consider taking further action, such as the invocation of contempt of Congress proceedings. Now, what do you think that means? That means if you don't come up with the goods, you don't produce these documents, you're going to be held in contempt of Congress, a criminal matter, and we're going to prosecute accordingly. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Now, do I think that there is a great likelihood that they will do that? I don't know. I would say if the Republicans stay in power, as they are likely to do for the foreseeable future, unless they vote out another George Santos, the idiots, or they have someone else resign for one reason or another, I think that they will. They will definitely try, whether they get a majority of their members to actually authorize or request that she be held in contempt of Congress is one thing. And another big thing is it's only a recommendation. They'll have to send it to the Department of Justice and say, hey, please hammer sweet Fani, slap her in the fanny, basically. They may not do that because it's the Biden Justice Department. As a matter of fact, I feel very comfortable in telling you, ladies and gentlemen, they're not going to do that. But the threat is there, and who knows? They may do it if Donald Trump wins the election coming up in November, which is a short time away. There's a very good chance at that point that they will hold her in contempt of Congress. Just think about this. If Donald Trump does win, please, I hope he wins, but let's just say he wins. You know, these prosecutors, these other individuals, there's going to be hell to pay. You can call it retribution. You can call it righting a wrong. You can call it making America better, making America great again, reining in these rogue prosecutors, helping fix the American justice system, whatever you want to call it. I'm fine by that, but there's a day of reckoning coming. There's a day of reckoning coming. I have no doubt about that. What do you think? You agree with me? That's the way I see it. All right, folks, we have been on for another hour. It's been my pleasure, as always, to take time, and y'all humble me. I sincerely mean this. It is really my honor to sit down and have a chat with you and talk about these important subjects in our lives. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, thumbs up. You know what to do so that you will be made aware when I go live again. I always say, folks, keep that mind free, never give up. And until next time, I am J.R. Dukes.